What if you've had a hankering to write a book for children, or you've had a really great idea, but you've yet to set it down on paper? Where do you start? Hello Groovy Cats, it's me Jules, and today I wanted to give you a brief overview of the course that I made for people just like you. In this first of 3 videos, I'll talk about what you need to consider, what you need to do, and what skills you need to brush up on even before you start. The first questions that you need to ask yourself are: will I be writing the text? Will I be illustrating the story? What skills do I already have? And what hardware do I already have? If you're someone who thinks in words and you already have your story mapped out in your head, then it's likely that you'll be writing the text. You may be wondering how you're going to do that. Perhaps you haven't done much writing since you were at school. But maybe you're somebody who does creative writing quite often and you just need to hone those skills. Either way, you'll need to consider some new writing skills for the 3 to 6-year-olds, which is the typical age for picture books. Although luckily, you can also have pictures in the older age groups too. Next up, you'll want to consider who is going to make the pictures. There are pros and cons for each option. If you're doing it yourself, that means that you won't need to split the profits with anybody else. It'll all be yours. But you might think that art and illustration just isn't your strong point, and perhaps you're just not creative in that way. If you are willing to give it a go though, you'll have much more control over your content and be able to make changes as you go along. If you decide to hire an illustrator, then you'll probably have to share the profits with them, even if you pay an upfront fee to them, and most illustrators will ask for that. On the plus side, if you find somebody who is experienced in picture books, then they can help you out by making suggestions for the layout and the content of your illustrations. Be prepared to budget for a fair amount for the illustrations. Ask yourself, what skills do you already have? Are your written language skills up to scratch? If you're illustrating it yourself, do you need to brush up on the method that you want to use? Or do you need to source new materials? How computer literate are you? Have you ever used a program like Photoshop? Do you know how to scan images if you need to? And do you know how to save different sorts of files? And what hardware and software do you already have? When I first started out, I had a PC with a very old version of Photoshop and InDesign on it, and a fairly basic Epson scanner. I also wrote most of my texts on Microsoft Word, which was useful for creative writing and the editing phase before I transferred it all over to Photoshop. Unless you're planning on writing the whole thing out by hand, then you will need some sort of tech to help you out. The next biggest question you need to ask yourself is, how am I going to get this book published and out into readership land? There are 2 main routes which I discuss in depth on the course, and each has pros and cons. I have a lot of experience in self or indie publishing, plus a little bit in traditional publishing too. This question needs some really careful consideration, depending on your willingness to learn some new skills. Or alternatively, if you want to hand over your project to somebody else to do the design work and the illustration and the publishing. Talking of design, you need to think about how your book is going to look. What will its orientation be? Landscape or portrait? What will its size be? How many colours will you be using? Will it be full colour, black and white, 2 colour, 3 colour? As well as considering the genre, subject and age range. You'll need to become familiar with the usual book length in terms of how many pages and its word count for your particular age range. Although they are a guideline, that guideline is there for a really good reason. Age ranges in books are made so the majority of children in that age can have a really good reading experience. It should be the right length, the right sentence length, and the right choice of word. Oh, as well as the right subject choice. A picture book remake of the horror film Friday the 13th probably won't go down very well, and you might get a few complaints. The course Make a Picture Book Step by Step also covers typefaces, bleed and spine, costings and fees, as well as lessons on what to do if you haven't got an idea at all, or how to develop your story or your character. And there are downloads for a creative writing prompt and a story maker cube. And that's just in the first 2 modules. If you need some help with making your picture book and want to use my exact formula, then I'll leave a link in the description box below. There is a free preview to have a look at, and once you're fully enrolled, the course is yours forever to watch and re-watch as many times as you want. There are 52 lessons, including 4 hours of video content, and lots of downloads to print off and keep. There are checklists at the end of each module and links to all of the useful websites that I talk about. These are all the key things that you need to get clear in your head before you delve too far into making your picture book. In particular, it's really important to focus on how you are going to publish your book, because if you want to indie publish, then that will have a domino effect on all of the other decisions that you make along the way. If you decide to do this and it feels utterly overwhelming, I know exactly how you feel because I was there. The main thing to remember is that you don't need to learn absolutely everything now, this week. Take it step by step, and soon you'll discover that you're learning things you never thought you'd learn. And when you reach your goal and have that book in your hand, you'll realise how far you've come. So check out the free preview. I'll leave the link in the description box below. I may have a sneaky sale on this month. Shh, don't tell anyone. Next week we'll be looking at pacing, dummy books and story shapes. I will see you next time. Nanu nanu.